Yes, can you see it? Little?
Yeah, but make it full screen.
इसे बस आवाज ये धीम कर दी चला ये सुना था ऑनलाइन में सही झाला म्हणजे की कितना उज्जर उज्जर भाई
Murtaza, just check if it is moving and make it full screen.
Yes, it is there. Go to the slideshow and there will be option for full
Yes, please
screen.
do that. Yes, go ahead.
Go to the slideshow, roll down.
Yeah, fine. Make it a slideshow, actually. Make it full screen.
Go to the pull down, slideshow pull down button. The button from right side. The third button from right side.
Yeah, slideshow. Yes. Third one, slideshow. Third from the right. Yes, yes, yeah, third.
Next.
Third, next.
No.
No.
The top third button from right. No, the roll down button.
Actually, my screen is creating problem. Actually,
Oh, I can understand because
it's a
Murtaza knows
fluctuation. A
everything.
fluctuation is going on there, so I can't see it. Actually, this is the problem. Yes.
So,
I am resolving it. Please.
I think the slideshow is right on top where you have five.
no. Yeah, I know. Actually,
Yeah.
he's facing some problem in his computer. He knows it.
Okay.
Anyone can share it. Actually, it's a fluctuation is too much here. I can't see it actually. That's
Oh, you could not resolve. Madhumita is able to operate her slide.
we can share this PPT to anyone if
Okay.
anyone can share, because all are allowed to share screen.
Yeah, okay.
Should I stop?
I mean, you're not able to do it?
Yes, actually fluctuation is there. That is
Okay,
why.
Professor Madhumita, you can share your slide. I think that will be better. It will be easy
Share
for
my
you to.
slides. I'm not very good at it. That's why I sent it. Anyone that please see. Where is it shared? Huh?
Yeah, share it.
And I have to open the slide first, I suppose.
Yeah.
Can you see the slide?
No. Yeah,
Is
you
it
are
there?
sharing. Yes, yes, great, great. So you can make it slideshow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonderful.
The
Yes.
slideshow is there.
Yes, that's wonderful.
Let me.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes, yes, it's moving.
No,
Okay,
actually,
then.
I thought it would be better if it's from your side.
No, that is all right. This is okay.
Mm.
So, greetings to all. Very good evening to all the viewers. And as we all know that this is the prestigious forum of the Society for Endangered and Lesser Known Languages, also called CEL, which is founded in the year 2011 by Professor Kavita Rastogi, with the aim to revitalize lesser known and endangered languages by bringing together like-minded people to document such languages, describe their grammars, and prepare pedagogical materials for the native communities. The society encourages, instructs, and trains dedicated researchers through various workshops, online lectures, and various online activities. CEL organizes International Conference for Endangered and Lesser Known Languages, also called ELKL, every year in various universities and institutes across the country. CEL also makes provision for the linguists and language activists to publish their work on the lesser known and endangered languages in their bilingual, biannual, peer-reviewed e-journal called Vakmanthan. Recently, CEL has announced 2 awards. One is Padma Shri Professor Anvita Abbi Award for the best paper by young scholars submitted for presentation during ELKL conference on endangered and inadequately documented languages, addressing linguistic, socio-cultural, or interdisciplinary aspects. Another is Dr. R.K. Rastogi Memorial Award, honoring excellence in research on endangered and poorly documented languages, specifically in phonetics and phonology. CEL also invites contribution to Swadesh word list project by submitting Swadesh 100 words audio and IP data in your mother tongue or other languages you are proficient in. Contributors will receive certificate of contribution, acknowledgement of your contribution on CEL website, and complimentary access to all online workshops and activities per year. So for this, you can check the details in celindia.org/Swadesh-word-list-project. With all that said, this evening, we all have gathered here for an invited lecture on peering into the linguistic diversity of Northeast India. And our guest speaker is an eminent linguist, our senior member of CEL, Professor Madhumita Borbora, who is popularly known for her professorship in the Department of English and Foreign Languages, Tejpur University, and also for her contribution as a coordinator to the Center for Endangered Languages, Tejpur University. Her areas of interest include syntax, field linguistics, documentation of Tibeto-Burman languages of Northeast India, and applied linguistics. Professor Madhumita has pioneering work in Assamese and many lesser-known languages of Northeast India. Mention may be made of such languages like Missing, Bugun, Rusuaka, Koro, and many others, while she has supervised a doctoral dissertation on Missing, Assam Sadri, Assamese, Sulung, Lish, Chug, Bodo, Dimasa, Nokte, Koro, and others. Without much ado, I welcome Professor Madhumita Borbora to deliver her much-awaited lecture on the relevant subject, that is the linguistic diversity of Northeast India. And a humble request to the viewers, kindly mute yourself. Please be careful. If inadvertently you are unmuted, it causes great disturbance to the presenter as well as the listeners. You all know it. Please be careful. Thank you so much. Over to Professor Madhumita Borbora. Welcome.
Thank you, Bishakha. At the very outset, I'd like to say that we have a Department of Linguistics and Language Technology in Tezpur University. And earlier we were part of English and Foreign Languages, which was later called the Department of English. And the linguistic wing, we came under the new Department of Linguistics and Language Technology. That's very confusing because, in the same department, same building, we are having different names. Anyway, thanks for inviting me. And this talk I have earlier presented, not the entire talk that I'll be present here, for the Asiatic Society meeting we had at Kohima in November last year. So since I felt that, of course, there were some constraints and time was also short, so I thought of bringing that paper again. And I think that there will be a different set of audience here. So whatever we are going to discuss today will be of interest and of relevance to all of us. Thank you once again. So looking into the linguistic diversity, because that is what we're very proud of, when we talk of Northeast, we consider ourselves to be a unique region. And but with the years of investigation and working in Northeast, especially with the Tibeto-Burman languages, this notion of diversity actually made me think that how diverse is this diversity, or is it well represented? So we know that this talk will be focusing mostly on Northeast India, especially the 7 states of Northeast, more specifically Arunachal Pradesh, for that matter. And the Northeast India, we know, is the home of 5 language families: Indo-Aryan, Dravidian, Austroasiatic, Tibeto-Burman, and Tai-Kadai. So if you look back into the background of all these language families, there is mostly migration of people being brought to Northeast. Tai-Kadai, the Ahom people, mostly primarily, of course, we have Tai Phake, Tai Khamti, and other Tai groups here. They came as, the Tai Ahom came as conquerors. They settled in Northeast, specifically in Assam. They became rulers, and then a very interesting thing happened. They consciously shifted to Assamese for political reasons and to govern the public. So they kept their own mother tongue limited within their own circle, and which is why in the long run, they lost out on their mother tongue mostly, and now that language is endangered. Then Austroasiatic, except for Khasi, the rest of the Austroasiatic languages spoken in Northeast, they are mostly migrants, people who came from mostly the Deccan Plateau, brought in by the Britishers from now the Jharkhand area, and of course Andhra and that whole belt of Adivasi speakers who came to Assam nearly 200 years back. And they kind of became the tea garden workers. And then we have tea garden workers and another set who left the tea garden as ex-tea garden workers, laborers, we won't use that. Then Dravidian, of course, is also the same case. They came to work in the field. Indo-Aryan, we have a handful of languages here, that is Assamese and Bangla mostly. And Tibeto-Burman is the majority of the languages spoken in the region. In fact, in entire India, the country, we have Tibeto-Burman mostly spoken in Northeast and maximum in Arunachal Pradesh. So this linguistic diversity, like from our own experience and from what other researchers and scholars and linguists have said and discussed, we find that we have not fully gauged how diverse is this diversity. And so I will try to highlight some of the points, some of the complex features of this notion of diversity, which I suppose for a lay person, it is enough to just use the term diversity. But for linguists and scholars and people like us who are working to document and to maintain and revitalize lesser known endangered language, lesser researched language, we need to be aware of how this term diversity needs to be looked at from our perspective. So I'd like to discuss what is linguistic diversity, because when we talk of diversity, there is also the notion of biodiversity. And biodiversity mainly pertains to animals and plants, the flora and the fauna. So if we look at it from the point of animals, we also humans, we also Homo sapiens, we would also come into that category. But as Homo sapiens, we have a ability which is beyond that of other animals, and that is being able to use a cognitive ability, the brain, and human speech. So this human speeches that we have around the world determines the linguistic diversity. So according to Bauder, 2002, linguistic diversity is established by socio-communicative codes. So you are a group of people and you communicate. So this is intercommunication, and the behavior of humans ascribable, therefore, to the ambit of culture. So within a community, we have certain sets of rules or that govern us that from on every walk of our life, that is from birth to death. We have religion, we have practices, we have festivities. So all this together make us a unique group. And this unique group is established by the ability to use our human, that is our brains, that is the ability to speak, cerebral cognition, and interpersonal and social. This includes everything. And it corresponds fundamentally to the socio-cognitive and experiential vicissitudes of particular biological species. So particular biological species is Homo sapiens humans. In other words, of a speech which appears to have greater brain power than others. So as human beings, we are unique. Though we have genetic implications, but mostly in linguistic diversity, we will talk about the socio-communicative, socio-cognitive, and experiential vicissitudes here. So the condition for the existence are controlled by cultural experiences of the speaker. Yes, for every language, not only a language or a community, and within the community, if you go to different geographical areas, that is the speaker of the same language, but they speak in different dialects. So if there is a marriage in that family, you will find that they will have some different set of norms, which is not there maybe in my family. So that kind of cultural experiences, differences we find. And the survival of this language is affected by one very important, is the socio-economic and cultural condition. So most importantly is the economic condition that determines that the existence of this language who decide personally on what to be transmitted to their successors. So if it is to be transmitted, that means initially most of the languages were oral. And interestingly, in India, most of our lesser known languages of Northeast are oral and is transmitted. So if for socio-economic reason, the generation, the older generation decides that it may not be transmitted, it could just come to, gradually it could come to a standstill. And this may lead to the disappearance of a language. That is one point. Of course, there are other points. So this could be one of the reasons where you shift to another language. And we will look at some examples, and maybe all of you have come across situations where people, communities have shifted to other languages, and they're mostly dominant languages. And given the greater flexibility of cultural reproduction, so there is the language change is faster. And since linguistic are products of human social mechanism to be constructed by conscious, decision conscious or unconscious, so we find that this definitely has to do with a personal autonomy, the determination that whether we continue with a language or what inflicts or brings about a change in a language. This is what we as a group of in a given society, we decide. So keeping this, so the 8 states, so the background that we are going to look at as here is Arunachal Pradesh, Assam, Manipur, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Sikkim, that is a brother state, and Tripura, yet to be fully explored and studied in order to understand the vastness of this diversity. And linguists and researchers working in the region have documented only a handful of lesser known, lesser researched languages, which comprises primarily language and dialects of Tibeto-Burman. Why I'm saying that, we will see that the maximum number of languages in this region is the TB languages. And the most crucial step for a linguist, and all of us, when we go to the field to document a new language, is identifying a language and the dialects spoken in a given area. Once this identification is ascertained by the support of the local indigenous community body or NGO, they have organization, comes the next step of documentation leading to language maintenance and revitalization. So this is a long drawn process. And we all know that I have worked in Arunachal, and most of my field staff have worked in different states of Northeast, specifically Nagaland, Manipur, and Assam. So we have seen that the cooperation from the community is very important. And not only us as people of researchers or institutions who have been there, there are also native speakers, indigenous speakers who have worked on languages. And they would also say that it is a long drawn process. It is not something that happens, you go and do a recording and you come back, put the record video or the audio, for people, to an audience, and that's it. No, but in this case, we have to devote ourselves to understand not only the language, but also the indigenous speakers, to be a part of them, and then understand their psyche in order to document their language. And in this whole process, if the group is a smaller group, they may, in the so-called period that we are working, may shift to a dominant language, and in no time they may consider the dominant language to be their first language, and then the mother tongue, the original language, just in front of our eye, gradually disappears. So the cause of language endangerment here is, of course, language shift, I have briefly said, and also mentioned dominant languages. The language policies and the lingua franca. So in place of, you need to communicate. So we are basically gregarious. We need to have communication. So we need to have a common link language. And this has led to lingua francas. And so we shall look at these different causes briefly and try to understand why should we be worried about this diversity that we have, and why should we maintain the diversity if possible. So the language policies that we have in a country, and especially pertaining to the school syllabus, now that we are talking of having a mother tongue in the classroom, the number of languages that we have is not feasible to introduce in the classroom as mother tongue subject. And also the criteria set by the government agencies like Census, India, and other national education policy. And NEP is not a recent phenomenon. It's been there for years now, of course. And then it becomes difficult to accommodate all these languages. And then the main reason is that for a indigenous community having a speech community to be recognized as a language, you have to have a certain population count. And accordingly, the census talks of scheduled, non-scheduled languages, mother tongues, and other mother tongues. So how are these then? Officially, there are 22 languages we all know, and they are all official languages, and they're used in different parts of India in different states. Now, the non-scheduled languages have to have a population above 10,000, and it can go beyond, it can go to lakh also, but it would remain non-scheduled for given criteria that is there. And languages which have population below 10 are labeled as mother tongue, and those below 5,000 are labeled as other mother tongue. So the mother tongue could have certain official, facilities of the constitution, but the one below 5,000 would not have those benefits which the mother tongue has. So this makes, so if you look into Arunachal Pradesh, most of the languages that we are going to discuss here, except one or two, they are all below 5,000. They are the other mother tongue category. Nagaland, of course, is a different thing, the case where most of the languages are above 10,000. So to recognize a language as a mother tongue, it must be eligible to be, it has to have a population about 10,000, this I have already said. And the focus of this paper is on those languages and dialects which meet the criteria set by these policies and yet are as diverse as the recognized by the. So we will just move to the next slide and look at the number of languages spoken in India. And the first given record we have is from Grayson, and Grayson had mentioned about 179 languages with 544 dialects. So that is from the late 19th century to the early part of 20th century. Then we have People's Linguistic Survey, which reported exactly, can I move this icon from here because I'm not seeing the entire screen. Vishaka?
Yes, sure, go ahead.
No, this, can you move this, because I cannot see the entire screen that I have written here. So the report, so the number of languages that is given here by People's Linguistic Survey is not in view. Can this be moved? Yeah, it can be.
Okay.
Thank you. So we have 780 languages, and Ethnologue, which is not an organization from within the country, and therefore most of the government officials would not consider it applicable. Ethnologue talks of 447 languages. And Census India, that is the last census we had in 2011. And after that, we don't have any such. We should have one in 22. So we have 121 languages in India. So this, I mean, the estimate of the number of language, even if you look into the census record from initially from 1881 to 2011, as taken from Kajaji 2002 and Croft 3, you see that I will not talk about the written languages and the rationalized languages, but let us look at the number of languages officially announced. So we have 81, we had 1881, we had 162. Then 10 years later, we have 150. 1951, we don't have any record because that is the time there is a big gap because of maybe the two wars, world wars, as well as independence of India. Then 61, we have 193. Then 71, we have 105, 81, 109. 1991, we have 114. And 2001, we have 122. And 2011, 121. 2001 and 2011 is interesting because there's a difference of only one language. And I have thought about it, and most likely one of the non-scheduled languages, in case of one of the non-scheduled languages, the population count must have dropped below 10,000, and therefore from 122, we have 121 languages till date. So the question now comes is if anybody thinks that looking at these tables, that how diverse are we? So if we look into People's Survey, PLSI, they have claimed that 780 languages across India, and there is another 100 set of languages somewhere. So Arunachal Pradesh has the maximum of 90 language, and as I pointed out that nearly 220 languages have gone extinct. So keeping all this in mind, and we can gauge that these different agencies must have had different scale for measuring the population count. The criteria has been different for all these agencies. So if we look into the number of languages as given by the statement of family-wise group, so amongst the Indo-Aryan group, we have Indo-European, we have Indo-Aryan, Iranian, and Germanic. So you see the maximum, there is 21 language amongst the Indo-Aryan, and the total population count is 78.05. Iranian, because the number is very small, it doesn't have a total population, it's a zero population. And Germanic, there's only one language in India, English, that is the mother tongue of some people. So it has 0.1. You just look at the written mother tongues, you get it. Then you have the Dravidian, which has a 19.6, Austroasiatic 1.1, Tibeto-Burman has 66 language. So this is the one language family that has got, the 66 are officially recognized. Mind you, there are more languages. It's 1.01. And Semito-Hamitic, these are some of the Arabian languages spoken here. So 99.5, I suppose, that's what we have. And out of all these 66 officially recognized TV languages, 64 are spoken in Northeast, 4 in Northwest. So I will not go into the policies, but we will now look into some of the issues that have been raised by researchers, and some of these researchers I know that because they worked with me, and therefore I can save for a handful of languages that has been mentioned here. So agencies as well as linguists have found that there are a number of dialects which can be recognized as a separate language. And it should be 2020 claims that there is a new language called Sartang that has been identified in the Nafra and Tembang circles of West Kamen. Previously, because West Kamen and that is you have Tawang, these two districts of Arunachal Pradesh, most of the languages that is spoken there are considered to be Monpa, especially the languages of these circles, Nafra, Tembang, then even Dirang circle. So Sartang has been considered to be, they have different names, so Butpa, But Monpa, and others. But Sartang, though it is considered to be a separate language, is not included in the census report. And the population of this group is only 2,000, so it belongs to that other mother tongue category. And the language is unclassified. In East Kamen, district of Arunachal Pradesh, Koro, once considered to be a dialect of Rushoaka, has been recognized as a separate language. This has been possible because of investigation conducted and analysis by a number of linguists from India and abroad since the 19th century. Because on record, we talk of the Living Tongue Institute, but we should give credit to the linguists from working in CIL and other such institutes or universities, even the government agencies in Arunachal Pradesh. They did recognize Koro to be separate from Rushoaka, but they didn't record it or didn't officially, just like Sartang has not been officially recognized by the census. So similarly, I suppose Koro wasn't. And even the native speakers, they would say that we are similar to each other in respect of culture, in respect of religion, in everything, in dress codes and all, but we speak different languages. So the Enduring Voices project of National Geography, they claim that in East Kamen of Arunachal, that there is a new language has been discovered. And this was in 2007. Later, in one of the IT projects, which we worked with Guwahati IIT, we worked on Koro and Rushoaka, and we looked there. We looked into the phonological aspects of these languages, features. But later, one of my scholars, she wrote her thesis on the Koro language, and that's how we got to know how different Koro is from Rushoaka. And then again, Laibaha and Bott, they worked on two languages that belongs to the Koboa cluster. And both the scholars had submitted their PhDs in 2017 in Bern University. So they looked into the Koboa cluster of languages, and a few of these languages, Bugun, Puroik, Sulung, then there is another Puroik, Bulu Puroik, Sartang, Kishpi, Duhumbi, others. And it was in 2001, George Vendrim had classified the Koboa cluster on the basis of shared vocabulary used by the tribes and subtribes of the cluster, where the word ko means water and bua means fire. So these are the common words, but however, we will have some examples where we will see how diverse some of these Koboa languages itself are. So in the official record, most of the languages in Dirang Circle are labeled as Monpa. And in Bott's thesis, Grammar of Duhumbi, shows that most of the lesser populated indigenous language in the circle were considered to be a Monpa language, but I had shown that Sartang is a different language. Even Duhumbi happens to be a separate language with a population of 1804. So Bugun has a population of 1432 as per census, but now in 22 the population may go up, we don't know. So even Laibaha, this is very interesting because he worked on Bulupuroi, which is a small community, it's in a Bulu village, and he had worked with 6 Bulu speakers. They're all cousins from the same family, and they stayed in the village, and the rest of the family members, which comprised of 20 of them, they shifted to other villages for work or after marriage, because this inter-community marriage is very common because the population is less, and normally they would, if the wife happens to be from another speech group community, children would adopt the mother's tongue. That is how also the languages disappear. But interestingly, in Nagaland, what happens is in 28 January, the government of Nagaland announces that there is a new language in Nagaland, and it is called Tikir. And Imchungar, now called Imkuing, is a language where one of my was one of the languages we worked in the center, in the department, Center for Endangered Languages. And when I used to discuss with my field staff regarding Imchungar, they would say that this Imchungar language has about 5 different types of dialects, but they would say that we feel that they are separate languages, but the people there in Shamator district would claim that it is only one language. But during our work with the Imchungar language, we found that Imchungar, the name changed to Inkuing, and in 22, Tikir was considered one of the dialects, which has a population of 11,000, was considered to be a separate language. Now, this phenomena that even Scott Delancey, when he was here, last time he was here, he told that even Stephen Moria finds that there are a number of varieties, Singpho and Nocte languages, about 80 varieties, I don't know. So maybe then also most of the language, Tikir is an exception that has come in, and also within the Kogwa cluster, both Bot and Laibaha, they claim that there are about 22 varieties within the Kogwa cluster. So if that is so, then out of the 66 language officially recognized, they recognize because of the population count, most of these languages would still be either under the mother tongue or the other mother tongue category. So to look into within a subgroup, that is the Kogwa cluster, I have taken some data from 3 languages, Bugun, which I've worked on, and Bulupuroi from Laibaha, and Duhumbi from Bot, where we looked into the nonverbal predicates. Nonverbal predicates, we know, world over, this is a type of clause structure, and there are 3 types normally, which is adjectival, nominal, and locative, or we have it. So we have, what we see here is that some language like English would use the same verb, like the be verb, but other languages would have like Assamese as 2 verb. One is the copula ho, that is not only Assamese, in Bangla as well as Hindi, we will use hai, ho, depending on the pronunciation. And then we have Hindi has only 1 ho. So wo ghar mein hai, he's at home. He gharot ase, we will say that is, we use the existential. So here we will also look at how this 3 languages differ from each other in the use of the copular structure, copula, and the existential verb. So we take in 3 types of sentences: affirmative, that is the positive, negative, and the alternative or the yes/no questions, just to see if the copula occurs in this structure. So the first language we look is the Coboa cluster. Now, before we start, letter is divided into 2 groups, that is the Western and the Eastern. And Bugun is spoken in villages like Sinchung, Wanghu, Napri, Mangapam, Bichom villages, and a few hamlets like here around Sinchung Circle, and this is in West Kaming district. Bulupurek is spoken in the Bulu village, and it is also in the Dirang Circle, West Kaming district. And Duhumbi Chukpa is spoken in Duhumbi village and few hamlets like Malekama, Lekuring in the Chuk village in Dirang Circle of West Kaming district. Now, if you look into the geography of West Kaming, the spread out, this numerous languages, the distance between them is not much, but there is a lot of differences in these languages. You see, look at it. So we look first into the adjectival predicate of Bugun. And here you will find that in the affirmative, hipakochiak, that is, this water is hot, hipakochiak beer. So this is the water hot. You don't have any copula for the affirmative, but for the negative, if I have to form a negative in sentence 3, we find a negative marker prefixing to the adjective. So here we find that adjectives in Bugun have a leaning, it's more verbal than nominal in Bugun. And we have this R prefix, which is a negative marker in Bugun. Now, if you look at Bulupuruik, we find that the affirmative sentence, Hima Amje Ro, so this house is good. So you have an assertive marker, no copula. And in the yes/no question, you have the existential ba, he. So he is an interrogative, but ba is an existential. We don't have a copula for the affirmative, but for the interrogative, we have an existential. And interestingly, for the negative, we have a copula which occurs only with negative. That is, hin ham amje bo ro. So cop negative. So you have an existential, you have a negative copula. In Duhumbi, so these are taken from the works of Botany. Yeah, so whatever data I could find, I brought in here. So negative, I couldn't find it, but in the positive construction, here the chili is pungent, the Sichuan pepper is stingly. You have a copula, and what labels it as copula 1, indicating that there could be more than one copula in Duhumbi. And this copula bay is from a diachronic perspective, because if you want to understand how the diachronic features are recorded, I think so Bott's thesis is a must. And also the book, it's online also there, so you can have a look at it. So he gives examples of Kishpi, Sartang, and Sharduk, and these are also clusters, I mean, from the Coboa cluster, which are similar, but not with Bulupuroik and Bugun. And so this is Western Coboa. So Bugun could be Eastern Coboa, but they are from the same district. And it's a cognate of Tibetan. So the influence of Monpa and Tibetan languages is very much apparent from this data. And the comments made by Matisov, Trugwood, and Bod as well. So the nominal predicates in Bugun are juxtaposed. The affirmative, Oi Dawa, Amje Uapo. So Amje is a teacher, Anje and Dawa, he's Dawa. But if I look into the negative in 8b, the copula is C, and here the copula, because the negative element the prefix cannot prefix to a noun like dawa. It has to take the copula verb, unlike the adjectival predicate. And then for the for the yes no question, we don't have a copula. Coming to Bulupuruik, we have for the nominal predicate affirmative, you have zoo, a copula. And then for the negative, you have babu. Oh, I hope I get the pronunciation. But for 10C, the yes no question does not take a copula. This is Leibacher. Let us look at Dumbi. Dumbi nominal predicate does not have a copula positive. 11B, if you look at Ga Duhumbi Boyu, I'm not a Duhumbi. You see, just like Bulupuruik, because this is Western Coboa cluster, it has a negative copula. And this bull is famous. Here, you don't have a copula, it's positive. But when you make a yes-no question, yes, the bull is famous, you have copula 2, lay, which occurs. So, and then, sorry, not yes-no question, this is assertive. When you assert, a new information is provided, you have another copula that is lay. So we have 2 copulas in Duhumbi. And for yes-no questions, you don't have a copula, you have ni. So you have a question, this is question 1, says. So then looking at locative predicates, Bugun has 2 ways of doing it. Either you put the locative case, like Jimbu Bomdila Ha is a locative case marker, Jimbu Bomdila isn't. So Ha is you have the differences between permanent and temporary existence, where you have Ha and And when it comes to is your father at home, no aqua hosha bia. So you have the existential And for possession also, you take Oesha sumwa nyeng But when it comes to negative, here we have another negative marker, negative possessive, you have oi. So he does not have 2 cows. So here for the locative existential, predicate existential, and possessive, we have a variation. For Bulupuruik, you have the locative ku, akunku, head locative. With that glass tumbler over his head, the dog fell down. Then for existential, they have the existential by, which is where, frog, where are you? Lavi. So you have a negative marker, existential neg, where there is, but he, the frog is not here. These are all stories, narrations from where you get these markers. And we are human only. Here we have a copula which comes with focus. So it depends on the context in which the copula is. And this is a new marker that we find in existential. Then in locative, we have these markers. And in Duhumbi, we have again the copula 1, which comes with, that is with existential. He puts it's the copula 1. And he has some money, even with possession, it is copula 1, which dot existential. And I have a pen, it is copula 1, existential, we have it. So if you look at the list that we have, the differences between Bubun, Bulupurik, and Duhumbi copula, you find for adjectival, we don't have any copula because the negative a occurs with the suffixes to the adjective. Bulupuroic has a yes/no question marker as well, copula, sorry, and bu, that is a negative. Duhumbi has be. Bugun takes the C as a copula only with the negative a. Bulupurik, Zu, and Babu. And Duhumbi, it could be null or lay for the interrogative. And Boyu. So, and for existential, location, ha and depending on the time, temporal existence. And then existential, you have possession and negation oi. And interestingly, Duhumbi uses the copula pe in most sentences except for when it is referring to lay, which is used. And Bulupurik we have for existential, it's separate, but location there's no. And we have this. Of course, it has a locative marker ku, which I've not included here. Then this is from one of the papers that we had already published in Bhaktan, Bhakmanthan. We have a comparison of Krushaka and Koro and how these two languages are different from one another. So we have human, nona, muru, nona, man, muru, women, mim, then you no, so ini, niaram, you have it, ike, and you can look at these words that for human, man, woman, I had, hair, hand, sky, earth, moon, sun, God, where we find the variations, the differences between the language. And these are the core words that we normally use in all languages, and they are so different from one another. So it was established in 2007. It's a two separate language. So what we also worked on 3 Kukiching languages of Northeast in Assam, in the Dima Hasao district for the center. And what was very interesting for us was the agreement system. And initially, when we looked into it, we thought that they were these markers, they would occur as prefix as well as suffix. So we looked into these languages, Biate, Rankol, and Kelma. So these languages have migrated, if you look from Tripura to Mizoram, it has come down to Northeast. And interestingly, there are no records of Biate's, Rankol, and Kelma speakers for Assam. I don't know about Mizoram and Tripura, but in Assam, we don't have any record of these languages. So, and this discovery that they're not there, especially for me, was I was invited for a meeting in SCRT Kahlipara. They had called for this NEP, this is new education policy 2020. They wanted to select some mother tongues as subject, and they invited some of the linguists as well as other officials and dignitaries for this meeting. And in that meeting, a list of names were read out. These are the languages that have requested to be included in the school curriculum. And Biate was one language mentioned there. And for me, it rang, because we have worked on that language. And then Professor Avdesh Mishra from New Delhi, he addressed the gathering. And then he must have already had that list, So he mentioned that BRT is not included. And then I discussed with him and I told him that we worked in Haflong area. And Monali is here, she knows that, and that this BRT group has got quite a number of speakers there. So in few thousands. But he said, no, it is not recorded. So immediately I called Monali and we discussed what has happened. Why is it that BRT is not included? And that would apply to Rangkol and Kelma also. And most likely, later I was a bit upset when I found that out. But actually, most likely, Monali didn't get back to me. And I think that it could be that they have shifted and they have come under the umbrella of some dominant group and have therefore not been included. So you see, in Assam, though we have worked on these languages, they're not actually recorded. So and therefore they cannot be introduced in the school curriculum. And the record, that is why when one of my scholars who worked on this in this language, I asked him to contact, and we found that we have recorded about 4,500. Therefore, this is debatable, the number of languages, because the ethnologue has an estimate, that's a big estimate here. And I suppose this includes not only India, but also Southeast Asia, wherever the Rangkol, Kelma, and BRT speakers are. So Rangkol speakers are found also near Haflong, and Kelma is in the Umrangso. Kelma is a bit different from Rangkol and BRT. And though Rangkol and BRT are very similar, but both the communities say they are not mutually intelligible. So you see the dichotomy. At one level, they try to retain their identity, but at the most crucial level, where they should be included in the census, because even population of, Bugun has a population of 1432. So it's so low, yet Bugun is included. It is still considered as one of the major languages of Arunachal Pradesh. And of course, Bugun has a different story. They had epidemics, 2-3 consecutive epidemics in the 50s, 1950s, where most of the people died of cholera epidemic, mostly due to ignorance and lack of medical aid. So that is not the story of BRT and Rangkol people or the Kelma people. So you have a rich agreement system, and this is nice because though ASMEs has a uniform agreement system, it is nothing like the Kuki-Ching languages, which is of interest. And therefore, the pre-verbal agreement, a positive sentence, ki, ni, a, kin, a, nin, an. And the post-verbal agreement in negative system is given here, non-future and future, they all have different agreement markers. It is here for you to see and record. So we have man, nune. So these are the markers. So, and then the diversity that we were talking of and the population count. So here again, we have in Northeast, we have a number of lingua franca, which came as a pidgin, remained as a pidgin, or the status has gone up for Nephamis remained a pidgin, and then when Arunachal became, what would I say, after 1972, when Hindi was introduced, after it became a union territory, and 80s when it became a state, Arunachali Hindi became the common linked language. But Arunachali Hindi does not have a record, I suppose. We have, as we have for Nagamis, then Nephamis. So Nagamis has gone up to the status of Creole, in Nagaland. And earlier it was kind of a mix because Assamese was dominant. You had a number of, but now it has a mix of Hindi, English, Bengali, Assamese, and other language have converged into Nagamese today. And of course, there are a lot of work on these lingua franca that we have. And this is only because that people needed the language are mutually unintelligible, and you need a common language, link language. In Arunachal, now the Arunachali Hindi has become more or less the mother tongue, where parents consciously are making their children, their toddlers, speak in Hindi, not in their mother tongue. So I've seen that happening, and the reason is they want to send them to a good school, government school like Kendra Vidyalaya, where they will have opportunities. And then Haflong Hindi, we know how the Haflong Hindi came in. So mainly again when the Britishers came and they brought in, people from North India to do business for this Lamding and Badorpur rail line. And then you had this this Haflong Hindi game. And of course, Assam Sadri, if you look into the Sadri, which is again for Bihar, Bengal, South India. So you have, interestingly, mostly Austro-Asiatic and Dravidian languages, but they adopted Indo-Aryan language as their link language. That is Sadri from Chota Nagpur, earlier Bihar, now Jharkhand. And Assam Sadri does not have a separate language code. It is included along with Sadri spoken in Jharkhand. But there is a difference. There is a thesis, one of the by Lakide on Asmi Sadri, where she has worked and showed the difference between Sadri in Chota Nagpur area, spoken there, and Sadri spoken in Assam. So this Sadri language in Assam Sadri has now become has evolved into the status from Pidgin to Creole and is accepted as the first language by most of the people, tea garden communities. So this is the first language. If you ask them what is their origin, they will say Munda or some other Oriya or some other language, but their mother tongue now is Sadri. So there is a shift here. And therefore, Api says that if we look at diversity and all, we need to understand the human cognition, which was like early, in the beginning of the talk, we had discussed about linguistic diversity. We come back to that. And so Api says that we need to understand the place of human cognition, because this human cognition also plays a role in the diversity. We create our own languages, and this helps us to have our own identity. Diversity of language points to the general importance of cultural and technical adaptation, important cultural and technical adaptations in humans. And diversity helps to adapt to varying and conflicting environments and is key to survival. Uniformity kills. This is what Abhi says. As languages are succinct witness to the diverse and varying ways in which human faculties perceive the world, their grammars, dictionaries are rich sources of information about the worldviews of the speakers of these languages. So Professor Abhi says we need to have diversity. And how do we have diversity? That is, we as a small group of linguists, we have a very, our scope is very, and the facilities, funding is very limited, which is why even with right earnest, we may not be able to do, that is, to document, maintain, and revitalize the language. And even the UNESCO report, when it comes to mother tongue education, says that mother tongue-based bilingual education offers significant pedagogical advantages, which have been reported consistently in the academic literature. Educationists agree that teaching mother tongue in primary classes or up to 12 years is a crucial factor for developing the intellectual, physical, and moral aspects of education in the early years of schooling. If initial formal education is dispensed in the mother tongue for at least 5 to 6 years throughout the whole of primary level of a strong bridge is thus laid for students, firstly for successful transfer of literacy skills from mother tongue to second language, secondly for the second language acquisition, and thirdly for successful achievements in further studies. Now we're only talking of mother tongues here. We're not talking of other mother tongues. Maybe UNESCO includes other mother tongue here, but Census India would not include the other mother tongue. And so the Constitution provides us with an article. It says it shall be the endeavor of every state or every local authority within the state to provide adequate facilities for instruction in mother tongue at primary stage of education to children belonging to linguistic minority groups. So the word mother tongue itself would be debatable, and we don't know what happens to the languages below having low population counts. So these are some of the problems, worries we have, and some of the references we have here. And even the diversity in saying thank you, which we collected and is here for you to see. And thank you. It's done.
Great piece of information, Professor Madhumita.
Yeah.
So enriching talk. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So I open the forum for questions.
Yeah.
comments.
Now I have to switch up the PPT, or should I keep the PPT? Let it be. Yeah.
Let it be.
Yeah.
I open the forum for
Yeah.
questions.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sure. Please go ahead.
My question is that I work in cognitive grammar, and I understand that certain cases, because of the things that I'm observing in my experiments, I'm seeing that there are certain patterns. We call them construction schemas, the patterns that you explained when you were talking about what the languages are like. Now, usually in certain settings, because of the languages that we are most exposed to, certain patterns become more accessible to us than other patterns because of more exposure. So in a multilingual, where you were talking about diversity, where there be a lot of different people with different kind of patterns that they are more, which will be more accessible to them. How do you suppose, what is your theory about what kind of teaching, when learning, what sort of thing should be done? Should we go for a more schematic pattern in that case, or should we, and if it's not possible, if a more broad generalization is not possible, then what is your take on how should the educational policy be in when teaching in a classroom where you are dealing with people who have access to different patterns and able to which affects both comprehension and speaking?
Okay, now the thing is, what I have discussed today, I'm trying to say is that most of these languages we worked in, the native speakers have already shifted around, they have already living their mother tongue, and they've shifted to Arunachal, to Hindi. So the thing is that what I'm trying to show, which I bring in Abhi later, is that this diversity is required in order to understand the cognitive process, because if you look at different funding agencies, they're only giving us fund to document. They're not giving us enough money to, I don't know if some agencies have, to, maintain and revitalize. Maintenance and revitalization is not important. What is important is to document so that they can look into the various structure and understand the cognitive process. That is what they want. And to have a theory here is very difficult because to bring in, so if you try to bring in some language, like let us take for Arunachal Pradesh, there are languages which can be, like, for example, Nishi language, which can be, made a official language of the state. Nishi has a high population, over 1 lakh. But Nishi will not be given that status because there are certain situations in Arunachal, which is all the languages are considered to be equal, the major languages. And Buguni is a major language which has a population of only 1400 something. And that population came down because of some epidemic, an epidemic, and such things had happened to this community. But the status is there. Because they have the status, not a single language would be considered to be eligible to be an official language, and therefore Arunachal Pradesh has English as the official language, but unofficially Arunachali Hindi has become the language. So if you have to talk of bringing in a language, even in Nagaland, where they have a number of languages introduced as subject in the classroom, and but they're more comfortable with Nagamese and English. And if you go to Arunachal, it is again Arunachali Hindi, and of course those who are well off, they will go for English and Hindi, because there's another thing that would be interesting for you, is that I had brought out a learner's book for the Bugun speakers, and we wrote, they wanted the Bugun language to be written in the Roman script. Then we had English and Hindi. We tried to make it trilingual, and Hindi was in Devanagari script. Then they asked me, requested finally when I showed them the draft, they said, "Madam, can you write the Hindi in Roman script?" So you see, the state of situation is such that these people, they can speak a language, Arunachali Hindi. Maybe they can manage up to a certain age. Some of these speakers may speak their mother tongue. I know a few handful of them who are good at it. But when it comes to formally using the language, writing, all of them would prefer the Roman script and not the Devanagari script for Hindi. And yet they are so well versed in Hindi. So how do we make a theory for this? These are the problems I'm raising. I'm not trying to say that NEP should include, because NEP will go by what census says. NEP is not going to even, if they are going to use, full immersion class where they will be using only the mother tongue in the classroom, or whether they will bring in the lingua franca, they will use the teachers are so comfortable. People are not interested in saving. They're not aware of their, even if they're conscious, they will not save it because they're too lazy. They will, in the classroom, I have been to the schools and they have said that, their medium of instruction is English, but they're teaching in Arunachali Hindi. So if the teachers are not using English, so what happens? So they will be having Nishi or some one of the few languages, and even in Assam we'll be having some of these languages. But what is the medium of instruction? Will it be full immersion? Who is going to decide on this? Who is going to check on the teachers? See, the last 41 years I've been a teacher trainer, teacher in various levels, college, university, and all. And I've seen the chaos that is there. The government comes up with a policy, the policy never fits in. I'm sorry, this is a platform, I shouldn't be saying it, but my own experience, I'm saying it. I hope NEP works. I know I haven't been able to give you a theoretical answer because I haven't taught on those lines, but here I'm raising issues which all of you who work in this area, whichever framework you work, doesn't matter. What matters is how do you document the languages. That's what I'm raising here. Atri, I hope it is.
Yes, ma'am.
You
Thank
may
you.
not be satisfied, but this is as much as I can say.
Elizabeth has a question. Elizabeth, you can go ahead with your
Yes.
questions.
Yeah, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Elizabeth, yeah, please.
Okay. Ma'am, I'm a native speaker, Frankel,
Franco.
and I'm
Yeah,
from the Mahasal. Yeah. When it
yeah,
comes
very
to regarding the language recording, recorded that in the Mahasal, Assam, Tripura, Mizoram, we don't have an umbrella term for Frankel. But when it comes to Tripura, there is. The problem is that those tribal in it's because of all these political issues might be. I'll not go beyond that. And when it comes to all these things, it might be because of the wrong information that Professor Misra have got. It might be. I feel so.
yeah, yeah. No, this
Yeah.
happens. I'll give you an example. Like in Arunachal, my first scholar was who worked on missing, Chugen Begu. He looked into all the different varieties of missing. And then in Arunachal also we have missing speakers. So he could know that these are missing speakers, but they claim to be they belong to this particular. I don't remember the name of that community. They belong to this because it's a dominant community. They said that they are not missing speakers, but he spent nights with them, and when in conversation, the missing words would come out, and he said, "I know this is my language. A bit where there is a variation. It happens, you're engulfed by a dominant community, and it's socio-political. It's not really political. It's a question of survival. So if a community feels that if they move to this particular group, I'll give you a simple example. Like one of the Biatir, I think so, Kelma or Uncle, I don't remember. Monali will remember. We had this informant who would come, and he was working on the translation of the Bible in his mother tongue. So I don't exactly remember which one. And he was very adamant that the Bible translation should come before our books, the books we published for the 7 languages we worked. Now, in a center where we work, we try to document. We are not trying to show an one-upmanship. But when anyway, the Bible was also published. So I asked him, now that you have a Bible in your mother tongue, when you go for the service, which do you prefer? And this was the question we asked because they were so insisted on the Bible in the mother tongue. Yes, the language is documented there also. Except for that, they would prefer the service in Mizo or maybe in, I don't know, they said Mizo, they wanted Mizo. And if the pastor was a Mizo, so it was Mizo service. The Monali could say something. Monali, please help me out.
Ma'am, actually, I just remembered and regarding the Biate population, I did ask some of the organized youth organization in Haflong, and they told me that they are not aware that their population was not counted in the census because as usual, the census persons did go to their house and have counted them, but how it did not reflect in the census was very mysterious for them. So that is what I got the information. But then, how many numbers of Biate people are there that they could not provide the information because that was not with them. The number of
Yeah.
the people, so they were not able to give me the information later. So that was very tricky.
Yeah,
What Elizabeth?
you have to go to the circle officer's office where the panchayat thing they record.
Yes,
There
ma'am.
they will have it language wise. So if you go there, and this is a very delicate issue, where I was also like dumbfounded when Abdesh, because I know Abdesh for so long, so I was speaking to him. I forgot the platform because I was trying to speak for the BRT speakers. So anyway, that's it. And Elizabeth, this is not only happening to Rankol or Biate, it is happening to a number of languages. And that is, and our discussion we're having here is with regards how diverse is this diversity. So if you try to just prod in and look into, you ask yourself, you're all native speakers, you'll know much more better than we know, you know? So you should come up with answers to these questions and go into the languages. And, you know, I always tell my students in the classroom that, yes, as students in the classroom, you'll be doing this theory, that theory. Theory is okay, you need to pass exams, but selflessly document the language. Don't bother which theory is better than the other. Later on, when you are mature enough, you go and do the theory. But learning is one thing, and recording, if you are interested in documentation, do it. It's very tough to just describe a language. Don't bring theory here. Theory will come later.
Yeah. Renuka, would you like to ask question?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. My mic is on. So it's very informative lecture. So we are talking about language, linguistic diversity. But very recently there was a seminar organized in jail. So there they try to bring all the languages under one family, that is Indian languages family. And the one another meeting was organized in Delhi, Bharya Bhasha Samiti. I attended that meeting. There also they
yes.
tried. There
Yeah.
also they try to bring all the languages under one language family, that is Indian languages family. So what about the future? Whether this diversity is recognized by the government, or we are going to accept the Indian languages family? What is your opinion? Thank you.
That's a very tricky question, and I don't have any answers. I know that meeting had taken place and some of my colleagues had gone there, and they didn't divulge much, but one person was very disappointed and he said that I'm not going anymore. And you see, this is the policies. I said, yeah, policies. So if that policy is putting everything together, then the diversity which Professor Api is talking is not going to be there. So you decide what you want. And you're from Manipur, Renuga? Are you from Manipur?
I am from Tamil Nadu. I was the head of the department of linguistics, Mother Kamaraj University.
Oh, Kamaraj University. So you decide. You see, ours, why I asked because of the Devi title. Yeah, the thing is, Indo-Aryan, Indo-Dravidian, they are quite large groups. And yet we have this problem. Think about the smaller groups.
Yes, there are smaller groups. So even I was invited for that Bharatiya Bhasha Samiti. Avdesh Kumar Mishra was there. That time, myself and Professor Ranga, we didn't accept that. So diversity should be accepted.
Yeah,
so
diversity should be accepted.
We see some uniformity among the languages because all those languages are spoken in contiguity. But after that, they didn't invite me for that, those seminars.
Yeah, they won't invite. They won't invite you. I'm also not invited. So it's okay. Doesn't matter. No, these are actually these things that I have mentioned here is because I have been thinking about all these issues, and I know these are very delicate things. And if you want to be part of NEP, you don't talk about it. That's it.
Yeah, I too attended that NEP meetings thrice, which were held in Delhi and Hyderabad. There also they want to bring out Hindi only as the major language all over India. But India is a multilingual, multicultural land. So there are so many languages. There are linguistic minorities, lesser known language people, but it is not possible to bring all the languages one umbrella and this move. But we linguists are very few in number. What we are going to contribute for there? Anmida abhi stay. The student is Avidesh Kumar Misra.
I know. The thing is, let us look at one thing. Hindi is being has been there. You know, Hindi is not that Hindi hasn't been there, but people are now talking about it. Think of that we all went for English.
Yes,
We ourselves, we all went for English. We forgot our mother tongues. You know, our parents put us into an English medium school. And
yes,
maybe if we were bilingual and taught in the bilingual process, we would have been much more linguistically richer. So this is a dichotomous situation, you know. So I would rather, I'm more worried about the smaller groups because these people, they're so nice, you know, you go and with them. Vishaka has been there, Monali knows, and so many of you, uh, Mosul is here, so we all know, you know. So, and I remember even in my professor interview, one of the expert asked me, Madhumita, do you think you'll be able to? I was so passionate about the whole thing. And he said, do you think you'll be able to save these languages? I said, no. I know I cannot save the language. It's not in my hands. It's in the hand of the community. Now, what? Yet the community, if they're not aware that their language is not there in the census, they should work on it.
Yes. Yes.
Find out what is happening. You know, they have a forum. They have to work on it.
Yes,
They're
yes.
constant. There are legal, you know, if you dig the constitution, you'll find something is there to help you. So why it is not there? Who has played this whole thing? So
Yes.
in the Dima South district, or maybe if I think so Tripura has it, but not in Assam. Why? So if you are a, you know what happened earlier was that if you are non-scheduled, if you're a bigger group, you will get recognition, you'll become scheduled language, you'll get that status or something. But now if you're a smaller group, if you're a mother tongue, you're more in the benefit. So how do you break yourself? So the local government also has a say, not only the central government, the local government also has a say. Anyway, I don't
Yes,
think so. We should
in
continue on.
Tamil also, even though Tamil is a major language, we prefer for English medium. So the younger generation, they are not able to speak fluently in Tamil. So that's what happening in Tamil Nadu also. So they are not giving much importance to mother tongue. Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Any more questions? Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Madhumita.
Thank you for having me. Nice meeting you and others. Yeah.
Thank you,
And
viewers.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, bye.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Thank you. See you.
Good night.
Good night. Good night,
You're looking
Vishaka.
beautiful. You're looking so young.
Yeah, I trim my hair. But others are not
Yeah,
here.
it was a wonderful talk. I mean, that's so enriching. I mean, I am so benefited actually. I told you this lecture can be, you know, I can hear it 2-3 times. It is wonderful.
You know, I hope Asiatic Society has got things ready because they want to publish it, na?
Yeah, actually, I'll find out from Satarupa what is going on.
Yeah,
Sure.
please do, let me know.
Yeah,
Okay,
take care of
keep
your
in
health.
touch. Yeah,
Good
yeah.
night. Take care of your health.
Good night. Good night.
Bye.
Take care. Bye. You don't need to off one, eh?